Good morning, everybody. Thanks for showing up, and welcome to the final live stream on YouTube. I'm not going away on live streams. If you saw my little video or maybe even listened to my podcast that I just put out last night, where I do a deeper dive into this decision, I'll be streaming on Twitch with some video games. I think that's going to be a much more fun and relaxed and chill live stream, because these are kind of like really rapid fire question and answer. Like, I feel like it's all business, right? And I want my live streams on Twitch to be more like we're just hanging out, having fun. So twitch.tv/John Allen if you're interested in that. But this is the last one here in this format. But I wanted to kind of open with that to say that, like, I'm not quitting live streaming. You'll still be able to interact with me and ask questions live. It'll just be in a different format and on a different site. So again, twitch.tv/John Allen. Let me say what's up to everybody that's here. Buggy Man, what's going on? Amit, Carlos, Rudy, Shailesh, Vamsi, Marlon says, Paul is about to go live. Why are you doing this to me? Yeah, we coordinate this. He's going to go live after me. This will be done probably a few minutes before he goes live, so you definitely won't miss anything there. Josh says, greetings all the way from the East Bay. I'm looking over the bridge right now. I can see your house, Josh. Caleb, what's going on? Congratulations on full-time YouTube. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. So yeah, normally I talk for like 10-15 minutes on a topic. I don't really have that topic today. So feel free to go ahead and start getting those questions going. Start asking any iOS dev questions, Swift questions, or what to expect from the channel going forward. Now that I have decided to go YouTube, again, full-time in quotes, because that's 70% YouTube, 30% contracting. Maybe ask some contracting questions. Feel free to ask anything you want. Because that's the whole point of this live stream, is kind of to do a Q&A and just hang out a bit. Robert from El Paso, what's going on? Jason, good to see you, Jason. You made it live. Good to see that. I know that's a rare thing. Patrick back in the chat. Haven't seen Patrick in a while. You can see Patrick's got the nice little mod symbol. He used to be a big part of these live streams, helping out with me. So good to see you back, Patrick. That's awesome. I don't know if are you starting to develop again, or are you just kind of getting involved in the community? Let me know what you're kind of thinking there. Whataburger. I've never had Whataburger. Cool. So we went with a venti today. Rough morning, so we'll see how this goes. Adil Shamad says, in what ways will 5G affect mobile app capabilities? How much of an impact will 5G make? What would you do to prepare for it? I don't really think you need to do anything to prepare for it. It's just going to be insanely fast, and I do think it'll change kind of the types of apps that are possible. But I also think we're a few years away from it being viable. Is kind of the word. Like right, anytime a brand new technology and a brand new thing comes out, it's going to take a few years for it to kind of get mass adoption and people to get used to the new capabilities. But to be honest with you, I haven't looked too much into it. I just know it's supposed to be insanely fast. So we'll kind of see. Rubia, good to see you. How's it going? Shailesh says, hi, what is the best approach to design an app from storyboard or programmatically? Yes, one video already on the channel, but make one more video explain in detail when to use storyboard, when to design programmatic. Thank you, Shailesh. I would have been very, very disappointed if on my last live stream, I didn't get the storyboard or programmatic question, right? I get it every live stream. I would have been sad. Honestly, I would have been. So I'll give my quick 30-second answer, because I say this all the time. I always use the right tool for the right job. My projects are always a mix of both, and I think you need to learn both, because when you go to a team, you don't know if they're going to do programmatic or storyboard, and you have to adapt to the existing framework that they're already using. So you got to learn both. My preference is if it's a super simple screen, I usually do that in storyboard. However, on the spectrum of complexity, the more and more complex it gets, I start leaning towards code. Like if it's super dynamic or a really complex layout, then I start doing that programmatically. So that's my answer. But at the end of the day, though, it's kind of your choice. Do whichever you want to do. But if you're kind of asking what you want to learn, definitely need to learn both. Everybody's saying what's up. Thon, hello from the Netherlands. What's going on? Patrick says, yep, he's back to development, going all in. Good to see that. I was kind of sad when you left, not gonna lie, because you were super enthusiastic about it, and I love that. And then it kind of sucked to see you go, but I understand it ebbs and flows. Jonas says, how do I get an iOS developer job as a European in the US? Any advice? Fortunately, Jonas, I don't have any advice here because I've never been in that situation, trying to, be in another country and get a job, in a different country. So fortunately, I can't help out too much there. So my chat always jumps around. Okay, sorry, I just had to get my chat back. Greetings from Germany, Jonas. What advice do you have for a new iOS freelancer? Time management is, in my opinion, the biggest downfall to a freelancer. At least that's what affected me the most. And because you are on your own schedule, it's what would always happen to me, because I would have to get a certain number of hours in on the week. What would always happen to me is it would be like Tuesday, and I'd be like, you know what, I don't feel like working today. I'm just going to chill. I'll work on Saturday. And then that same thing would happen maybe on like Friday. And before I knew it, I was putting in 8-hour days, Saturday and Sunday. And that's my poor time management. Like, I'm not blaming freelancing. That's my own procrastination. But I think if you can master that time management, and don't get me wrong, in the beginning, it's going to be easy, right? But this happened to me like after like a year of contracting, where I started to kind of let that slip and lose my discipline a little bit. But yeah, in the beginning, you'll be excited. And once that honeymoon phase is over, but yeah, time management is pretty hard when it comes to like freelancing. Chris Connor says, I'm excited to see your gaming skills, Sean. You should open up a competitive play with Patreon members. So that is the other thing I want to do with the Twitch channel, is like definitely bring in people from the community, from the chat, that are like, hey, you want to come play? Yeah, let's play a game, whatever game I'm playing. Right now I'm currently playing Apex Legends on Xbox. It's a first-person shooter. Kind of a more competitive battle royale than Fortnite. Like, Fortnite's kind of cartoony and for kids. This is more of a traditional first-person shooter, but it's a battle royale. I grew up playing video games. Like, I literally was a diehard gamer until I was about 30, and then for some reason just dropped. It kind of correlated with when I moved to San Francisco. I kind of like stopped playing video games. So I haven't really played much the past 5-6 years. But it's like riding a bike. It comes right back. By no means am I saying I'm a pro, but I was always pretty good. So we'll see how that goes. And like I said, I definitely want to engage with the community and bring in people to play, with me on my team or against me, depending on the game. Because again, the whole point of this is really just to hang out and build a deeper relationship with the community. Like, that's honestly the whole point. And it is networking. Like, it's kind of like a new age networking, right? You hear the old businessmen, how they network on the golf course. They go golfing together. That's when they make business deals. That's when they network. Well, this is kind of like the 21st century version of that, right? We'll just hang out on Twitch, play video games, and again, building deeper relationships is really, how you network. So, yep, I can't wait for that. I could talk about that all day, but I know probably half the chat doesn't give a shit about Twitch streaming, but I could talk about it all day. Okay, Swifty Tilting Planet says, full-time details, YouTube plus contracting. Yeah, so let's dive into that a little bit. Again, real quick, if you want like the super long in-depth, I did just release a podcast last night. It's the full-time YouTube decision, the deep dive. You can see it's like 36 minutes. So if you want the real deep dive, check out that podcast episode, because I go fully into the thought process. But I'll give the quick overview. At the end of the day, I was interviewing at these big companies, YouTube, PayPal, Twitch, and honestly, like sitting in the YouTube offices, like at Google, and hearing, they have 30 iOS teams, and just kind of like hearing about how things went. Yes, it would be awesome to work at YouTube. Don't get me wrong. Like, you're working on like one of the best products in the world, in my opinion. It has its faults, of course, right? But I think it's like a world-changing product. And mainly because I always say YouTube University, and I think, people can learn so much on YouTube. Anyway, I love YouTube. So it would have been awesome to work there. But like just the environment of that huge company, like actually kind of seeing it and being there, kind of started to lose its appeal. Because like I said, I always looked at it as like required kind of chapter in my career, but it was never something like I wanted to do. Like, I was like, oh, it would be so fun to work at a big company. I always like working at the smaller startups where I can have a huge impact on like the entire product, right? As you know, when you go to a large company, you're most likely, going to have a small section of the app that you own. Again, I like having all aspects of the product, a huge impact on that. So anyway, as I was interviewing, it started to become less and less attractive. And the pull to the full-time YouTube, that was always attractive, right? That was always the end goal. So yeah, and then like I say in the video, so some of you may heard this is repeating myself, but again, I've built whatever this YouTube channel is, the 40,000 subscribers, the good following. just on nights and weekends in my spare time. So I always got frustrated, like, man, if I could go full time on this, I could really build this into something amazing, right? And that was always the frustration in the back of my mind. So that finally won out. Now I finally get to, and again, it's not full time. It's 70%. And I want to, that 30% contracting is very important, because I'm going to admit, I've only been doing this for 4 years, right? So by no means do I consider myself even a senior developer, right? So kind of leaving development to go full time, like content creation and teaching, seems like I'm not quite ready for that yet. So that's why the 30% contracting is super important, because, well, the first 6 months to a year is going to be taken up by Aluna and the deal I have with them. But, after they've launched and it's more of a maintenance thing, then I'll probably be looking for contracts at the larger companies so I can get experience there. And it's not just a larger company experience, but it's also experience like anybody that's contracted out there knows. You may do a 3-month contract, a 6-month contract, whatever it is, but you're bouncing from code base to code base to code base. And every single code base, it's going to be vastly different how they do it. Right? Like one code base may be 100% programmatic and use RX Swift. Another code base could be pure storyboard and use MVVM. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's so many different ways to do things, and each company and project is going to do it differently. So that's why that 30% contracting is huge. I feel like that is going to round out my overall experience and developer skills if I take on the right contracts there. So that's the plan. Again, I could talk about that forever. I kind of did in that podcast I just showed you. 40 minutes of the deep dive of really getting into it. Also, real quick, let me know how the stream health is. It says it's not great, so I want to make sure it's not like super choppy and you guys can actually understand me. Let me check the bottom of the chat, see if anybody's saying anything about it. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Yeah, let me know if it gets bad there. Okay. Marina says, hey, Sean, well, what would you do as a beginner after finishing Paul's challenge? So if you finish Paul's challenge, hopefully, I'm assuming you're talking about the 100 Days of Swift. Hopefully you have a pretty solid understanding of the basics. I would do a few more tutorials. No, maybe not. I didn't finish Paul's challenge, so I don't have a full grasp of it. I kind of lost time for that earlier. But yeah, I always say once you kind of get past the tutorial phase, start building your own project. That's when you're going to learn a ton. When you actually have to take the own idea in your head and make it a reality, right? You're not following somebody else's recipe, like I call it, that'll, type what I type and you'll get an app, right? Have your own idea and bring that own idea to life. That is when your learning will accelerate because you'll have to dive into the documentation. You'll have to figure it out on your own. That's what I would recommend. Try bringing your own idea to life. And then once you can do that, that's a pretty good unlock. You're going to start feeling really good about yourself once you start bringing your own idea to life and maybe put it on the App Store. Patrick says, I'm going to record a daily vlog, coding, and sketch work on YouTube. Yeah, that's great. I would love to see that. Let me know when you actually do that, and let me know if you have any questions about getting this whole YouTube thing started. I love talking YouTube and the business of YouTube around it. That's also what's attractive to me, is building my own business, right? Because it may, on the surface, it may seem like, oh, you just, make videos and post them, but really there's like 10 different revenue streams. And if you're creative enough, you can find more revenue streams to like build this business. So it's in the whole motto is like just build things. Like that's what I love to do. And each one of these little revenue streams is like another thing I get to build. So, for example, obviously AdSense, that is just putting out videos. The podcast, that's another thing to build. Patreon, that's the thing to build. So it's like every one of these little revenue streams, sponsorships, I got to reach out to that, start getting those. That's another thing to build. So I don't know. That's the attractive thing to me, is building this business, not just a YouTube channel. Oscar Fowler says, do you ever create your own images for your apps? Can you recommend an app? If they're simple, like a little icon or something like that, yeah, super simple ones, and I use Sketch for that. But I am by no means like a graphics artist or anything. Alejandro says, hey, I'm having trouble hiding the bar status. I've tried everything. I don't know it off the top of my head, but isn't that pretty easy? I think a Stack Overflow search will pop that up pretty quick, but I'm pretty sure you want to hide it on all screens or particular screens, because there are different ways to do that. I can't say it off the top of my head. Maybe somebody in chat will do that. I always have to look that up, but it's like a one line of code thing. It's not terribly tricky. Yeah, Patrick says storyboard versus programmatic wouldn't be a live stream. That's right. I'm happy. Normally I get a little annoyed when I get that question, but today I'm happy since it's the last one. Got to talk about it. Caleb of a Swifty Tilting Planet says, also, you didn't say you're going to make your own iOS game plus apps. Oh yeah, I did say that. Yeah. So the game I'm making, again, I don't want to talk about it too much yet because it's a relatively simple game and I'm not going to get to the idea for like 5 months. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big believer in that, like, the idea is shit. Like, you have to, execute on it, right? That's where the real differentiation is. So I'm not worried about people like stealing the idea, but it isn't a complex game. So I feel like, putting it out there to thousands of developers, like somebody could knock it out in probably like 3 weeks. So I'm going to hold off on that. But when I do start getting into development mode, when I'm knocking it out in like 3 weeks, I'm going to be vlogging it the whole time, doing like a behind the scenes thing, just kind of leading up to launch so people can follow along the journey of building that app. And then part of the whole full-time YouTube, 70% YouTube, 30% contracting, excuse me. The other kind of part of that I haven't really talked about yet is I do want to build my own portfolio of apps. So kind of like the indie development app route. Because that's obviously an income stream. If I can have a portfolio of like 10 apps that are all generating a little bit of revenue, hopefully that in aggregation can be a decent revenue stream. So more on that too. And there'll be all kinds of videos about indie app development. Trust me, I've thought about the future of the channel and what kind of content I can create if I leave the industry, like leave the day-to-day working. And, contracting and independent app developer, kind of the story of that, building your own business around independent apps is also an avenue I'm exploring there. Shadow7 says, I'm learning iOS dev and everything in iOS seems new to me. Well, I'm familiar with programming, but things in iOS seem new to me. Yeah, I mean, it's a completely new platform, but best of luck with that. Hopefully you're in the right place. My channel kind of caters to, people just learning iOS development. They're not super crazy advanced videos. So hopefully you find some value here. Jason says, what are the other usual questions? Flutter, RX Swift, yeah. Ask about Firebase, ask about cross-platform versus native. Let's get them all in, Josh Adams says, I wrote a blog post on how to implement programmatic layout. Message me if interested. Yeah, Josh is always super helpful. Definitely hit him up if you have any questions about that. Stas says, can you make a tutorial on how to use MVVM pattern with controllers? It's very clear when we have view models for views, cells, etc., but hard to understand how to use view models with controllers. So Stas, I've only dabbled in MVVM. I haven't built like a real project in MVVM, so that's why you haven't seen, so many videos on that topic, is because I haven't really used it all that much. But hopefully in the future, again, that's also the other reason I want to keep contracting and experiencing the other code bases, is not because, or definitely because I want that experience and that knowledge, but it also helps the content, right? Like I just said, it's hard for me to do videos on MVVM because I've never used it in a real project. But if I contract on a project that's using it, now I have that MVVM knowledge. Now I can, create content based around that. So again, kind of bringing that back full circle to why that 30% contracting is super important to me. Even if the YouTube is making a ridiculous amount of money, I'll still do the contracting thing just for my own knowledge. Commander242 says, I think I'm bad at organizing my code so the architecture of my apps suck, even if I try to stick to MVC. What should I learn to get better at this, and how did you learn it? Thanks. Commander242, really love the name and the Stormtrooper avatar, by the way. Honestly, how I learned this, the best way to like organize my code and architect it is just experience. There was no like book I read or tutorial post that like really taught me. It was just a little by little over time, you start picking up little tricks. And kind of back to the contracting thing, I spent 1.5 years of my career kind of in the middle of my career contracting. And like I said, when contracting, you're bouncing around from code base to code base to code base. So I picked up a lot of tricks along the way. So unfortunately, there is no easy answer, I think, to just like read a book or do a tutorial and now you'll learn it. It's just one of those things that comes with time and experience, in my opinion. And you'll just kind of pick up little tips along the way. And it's a skill that is constantly evolving and getting better. US Ireland says, Sean, how do you think to handle moving UI text fields when the keyboard appears, both in terms of implementation and also the UI UX experience? Only move when necessary, or move all just above the keyboard? I hate this. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of fine technical reasons. I've never looked into it, but why is this so hard in iOS, right? Moving the views for the keyboard. There's like, if you Google it, there's like 10 different ways to do it. Some of them are a little janky. Not all of them work perfectly in all the situations. I just don't understand, like, why does this have to be so hard in iOS? I hope this gets addressed. I think the developer world, or at least the iOS developer world, will just rejoice if iOS 13 comes out with some out of the box thing that like handles all this. But anyway, I've done both, where I move the entire view up, and then I've also done it where you're like going text field by text field. If you're asking me like the exact code implementation off the top of my head, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to help you out there. That's kind of one of those things that I've built in a couple projects, and anytime I need to do it again, I go back to that project, copy, paste, and then tweak as necessary, because it's always a headache. Victor says, are you excited with the Apple ecosystem and started iOS dev, or you choose Swift randomly? So I've always been an Apple fanboy. When I decided to go mobile development, I knew it was going to be native, because the startup I was working at, they were building a cross-platform app, and I thought it sucked, and I had a bad experience with cross-platform. So I was like, no, it's native all the way if you're going to do this. And then when it came down between like Android or iOS, it was iOS was the obvious choice. I've had an iPhone pretty much since the beginning, and I've always been a huge Apple fanboy, so that wasn't even a choice. And then, Swift came out right around the time I was starting to do development. So it was like perfect timing. It's like, hey, here's this brand new language. Might as well start with that. So I went all in on Swift. The bootcamp I did was Objective-C. So I learned a little bit of Objective-C, but pretty much after that bootcamp graduation, it's been just 100% Swift. And, people ask that all the time. It's not so much of a question now that Swift is like mature, and a lot of people are using, it's not mature, it's still maturing, but it's more mature than it was. And companies are actually starting to use it. But, 2 years ago, it was a legitimate question. Should I learn Objective-C or should I learn Swift? And I just went all in on Swift because I was just a believer in like, this is obviously where Apple is going. So let me work on where they're going, not kind of what's being, phased out. Many people may hate me for saying Objective-C is being phased out, but Swift is obviously the future for Apple. Marlon says, Apex Legends is pretty sweet. I got to play more. I know it's made by the guys who made Modern Warfare 1 and 2. Yeah, I was always a fan of Titanfall for Xbox, and this is the people that made Titanfall, so it's a good game. They just got to release more content. But yeah, if you are playing Apex Legends on Xbox, maybe DM me on Twitter or something like that. We'll trade gamer tags, and maybe we'll play some. Robert says, when are you going to launch your How to Market Yourself videos? Well, hopefully soon, because now that I'll have more time. By the way, this full-time thing starts July 1st. So even though I'm talking about it a lot, like I'm still working 40 hours a week until July 1st. So Marlon says he's on PS4. Hopefully they come out with cross-platform multiplayer. Yeah, I agree. I think all games should kind of be like that now. But I probably will get a PS4 too if I take this streaming thing seriously, just, for situations like this, if there's an exclusive game on PS4 or whatever. Teomir says, I make my own apps and games and I upload them to the App Store. Do you have any advice for that? For example, how to make them more popular? I haven't dealt with this in a long time. So at my first startup, I was the growth lead. So I led growth and marketing and all that stuff. And so I was really into ASO, like App Store optimization and SEO, search engine optimization for landing pages and all that stuff. But this was almost 5 years ago now. So all my knowledge may be out of date, but I would just start Googling App Store optimization and look for some modern blog posts and articles about that. And that should help you out for sure. But I need to also start refreshing my knowledge on that because, like I said, I'm going to start launching my own apps, and I need to brush up on that. Jason said, just finished the live stream before, or just finished the podcast before listening to this live stream. So yeah, so maybe a lot of that was repetitive, but yeah, I really went pretty deep into that podcast. I am a C embedded developer, and for now I want to change my job and start developing apps for iOS. Can you give me advice, please? So this is my typical advice. I always say just complete immersion. Just immerse yourself, like live streams like this. Start watching a lot of YouTube videos there's a bunch of iOS developer YouTubers. Start listening to podcasts, not only just my own, there's tons of iOS podcasts out there. And I say all this for just complete immersion because what I always say is if you immerse yourself in stuff, you'll start just hearing stuff. It may not click right away, but then there's always going to be that click moment, maybe 3-4 months down the line. And I think that moment happens faster when you've been just immersing yourself. And like maybe you're constantly hearing about this coordinator pattern that everyone's talking about, and you've heard about it. You've heard a little bit about it, but you don't fully understand it. And then one day you hear one podcast that's explained a certain way, or you read a tutorial that explains it a different way, and then it just clicks. But I think it clicks because you've heard all this other stuff in the past about it, you know? So I always say complete immersion, podcasts, YouTube videos, tutorials. That's, to me, that's the fastest way to learn if you're looking for the quick learn. Caleb says, I'll check it out. Last night I was watching Kilo's 8-hour live stream. Yeah, I saw he was doing that. I was like, whew, good luck, man. That's a lot. I didn't watch it, obviously, because that's a lot, but I'll have to message him and see how it went. Because I know his goal was to get an app on the App Store, or at least submitted by the end of that 8 hours. So we'll see. Lorenzo says, how did you deal with imposter syndrome if you had it? Oh, I definitely had it. How long before you felt confident in your skills to get hired? Well, I got hired before I was confident. I've said the story, and it's, in my book if you want to check it out, link in the description. It's only crazy until you do it, how I became an iOS developer. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, I did a boot camp, and about a month out of that boot camp, I got hired. But I didn't get hired because I was a good developer. Because the truth is, you come out of a boot camp, you really don't know shit. I mean, you know the basics, but you're really not ready to get hired. So they hired me for me, like the way the interview process went. I showed great initiative. They loved the work ethic, the attitude I showed, and they actually liked the fact that I was older, because I was 32 or 33 at the time, right? Because I guess they had a bad experience with hiring somebody fresh out of college, and they were like, they're 22 years old. Maybe they're not as mature and don't take the job seriously or whatever. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I think they may have had a bad experience with that. So they liked the fact that I was older, had a different career, and had decided to make the career change into development, right? Because they looked at that as like, okay, this is obviously something you decided to do. You're passionate about it. You want to do it. Whereas when you're younger, like sometimes you don't always know what you want to do with your life. So sometimes you pick your major or your profession and you don't really know if that's what you're going to like. So anyway, back to the question. I just went on a rant there. Imposter syndrome. Yeah, I had imposter syndrome pretty much that whole time. And I just kind of learned on the job, and it slowly went away over time as I started improving my skills and getting better at the job. So maybe my situation's a little different, whereas I kind of got the job before I deserved it. And when I say deserved it, dev skill wise, not like human being wise. Like I definitely wasn't ready as a developer. But that's just kind of a note that, some companies really do value the soft skills. And that's kind of the way, in my opinion, too. Whenever I hire somebody or look to hire somebody, I am concerned about the dev skills, but that's not like the top thing, because I feel like that can be taught, right? Or you can kind of pick that up over time. Whereas, if they're just a dick or horrible to work with or selfish or not really motivated, like those are things that are hard to like change about a person. But if you're motivated, you want to learn, you love it, you're passionate, you're just missing the knowledge, like we can help you fill in that knowledge. So anyway, that's kind of, I would look for a company that maybe has that attitude and just show off all those soft skills and show that passion. So Shadow7 says, I'm learning iOS dev. Oh, he said that already. Rubia says, practicing algorithms, app suggested by you called Algorithm. Yep, so far it's going good. Thanks a lot. You are my inspiration. Appreciate that, Rubia. Yeah, the app called Algorithms on the iOS App Store looked really good on the iPad. Is a good place to start and some good help there. I recommend that. And it's free. Can't argue with that. GG says, could you make a tutorial for avoiding massive view controller by splitting it up to a UI view controller and a logic view controller? Well, I mean, there's 100 different ways to avoid massive view controllers. So I definitely want to do some tutorials on that, because my belief, and this is just me, and is that all these MVVM, Viper, whatever hot new architectures, they're just like, I don't know. I don't think they're fully necessary. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certain situations where those type of architectures are perfect and they work great. But I don't think it's like one size fits all with those type of architectures. And I do think MVC, when done correctly, you're not going to get massive view controller. Like when you're using, child view controllers and composition and all that stuff, like, and refactor your code well, you're not going to have a massive view controller. So sorry, I lost my train of thought. So that's kind of my little rant there. So anyway, if I did make a video on that, it would be, just some tips on how to avoid massive view controller, because there's probably like 100 of them. Lorenzo says, please like for Sean, guys. Yeah, if you want to throw a like on there, I appreciate that. Philip Carlina says, Sean, just curious, what kind of money do you make on YouTube? Not asking for a specific number, but could you pay your bills with it? I have no idea what creators make. Yeah, I don't mind talking about this. Like I said, I love talking about the business of YouTube because it's, I don't know, super fun to me. Right now, I make about $1,800 a month. I mean, obviously it fluctuates. That's the other thing you should really start with. There's no like flat income rate, right? It really fluctuates from month to month, but I would say 1,500 to 2,000 is probably in the range. Like a bad month right now would be 1,500. A good month would be 2,000. But remember, no, I can't pay my bills off that. That's like 20 grand a year. But you have to, and this is also where that 30% contracting comes in. Like I need that in the beginning. I need that to like, live. But I also say that's how much I make, but I haven't been able to build these revenue streams. Like I've said this in the podcast. So if you heard the podcast, this is going to be a repeat, but I look at the YouTube business and all the revenue streams as like a garden. And because I have a full-time job, I don't have time to fully tend to my garden. And there's a lot of things that are like withering away and dying or not even being planted because I don't have the time. But now that I have time, I can like fully water that garden, start planting some new trees and really have things take off. So I didn't make this decision based on like, oh, I'm making enough income from YouTube now, time to switch. It's more so, what can I do with this time to build? And a number one thing is courses, right? Like paid courses for a business like this is probably the number one revenue generator. Like if you ask Let's Build That App, Brian Vong, what he makes 80% of his money off of, I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I would bet a lot of money that it's courses, And so anyway, that is one revenue stream that I don't have yet because I haven't had time. So courses, more books, because my first book was about me. So I understand that like that's not for everybody. A lot of people want to learn stuff. So I plan on doing more books and more courses. So that's where over time YouTube will grow enough to pay the bills, via those revenue streams. And as the channel grows and then the podcast grows and everything grows. But really at the end of the day, like it's like 10 different revenue streams all coming together to make one income. And right now that's about 1,500 to 2,000 a month. Give or take a little bit. All in all says, without beard, you look cool, Sean. With beard, not like well. Hey, it's not for everybody. A lot of people say, love the beard, looks magnificent. Some people say, when are you going to shave? You look homeless. So I don't know. Can't please everybody, right? I like it. If I could grow hair up here, I would probably shave every once in a while. But because I can't grow it here, I gotta compensate, Okay, so little choppy. Okay, we're talking about the stream thing. Okay, cool. Talking about the stream. Christopher Connor says, could you please repeat your Twitch handle? Yeah, Sean Allen. So twitch.tv/Sean Allen, just all one word, SeanAllen. So yeah, that's it for now. There's a whole like gaming organization thing that I'm looking to build and stuff. I talk about that in the podcast too. That's kind of another 20-year side endeavor. So if you're interested in hearing more about the gaming organization that I'm looking about creating, or we'll talk about that. That's in the podcast. I don't want to go down that sidetrack and turn this into a Twitch streaming live stream. Ollie H says, what product do you use in your beard to make it stay straight? So the main product, well, I do use beard oil, but really what finally got it to be like straight, and it's funny, you can see when I discovered this in my videos, because I'll go back and look at some of my old videos and be like, holy, your beard looks like shit, dude. And because I didn't discover the blow dryer, as simple as it is. Like right when I get out of the shower, blow dry it, straighten it out, that's what gets it straight and good to go. But yeah, if I just showered and dried it off and walked out, it would be... It's horrible. And that's what it was like in some of my older videos. And I look back and cringe here. Oops, sorry, man, my chat keeps jumping around. Sorry, scrolling back up. Got to find where I was at. Our Kimura says, hi, Sean, you are amazing. Do you have a company? If not, why? I'm assuming you mean like my own company, like a startup. That's kind of how I'm treating this YouTube business. So yeah, like this is my company. It's not incorporated yet. I don't have like an LLC or anything, which may have to change soon now that I'm going full time. But yeah, so this, if you're asking like why I don't have my own startup, this YouTube thing is kind of like my own startup. Again, I've only been doing it for 2 years part-time. Watch where this thing is in like 3 to 5 years though. Can't wait for that. Pretty random question. How can I change the background color of a regular search bar? Can't figure it out for days. I don't know off the top of my head. I always feel bad for saying that when I answer, but like, because a lot of people ask me like some pretty specific questions, like I just have Stack Overflow memorized. Like if I were to answer this question, I would be Googling and trying to figure it out. And that's why it's a joke, but it's also true that like one of the most important skills as a developer is your ability to like find answers. And that's a nice way of saying your Googling skills. So yeah. Caleb says, sweet, love to see the Sean Allen App Store page. Yeah, like I said, I'm hoping to build that portfolio of apps with a good number of them. Thon says, are you going to open source your game? No, I am not, because I am going to, I haven't figured out the monetization strategy, but I'm going to try to monetize because, like I said, my portfolio of indie apps is also going to be something so I can document how I'm going independent apps, right? And because I think a lot of people are interested in that, right? Is it still possible now as an independent developer to build a portfolio of apps that can generate enough income to make a living? That's also a route I'm going to explore over the years. This isn't something I'm going to do next month, but over the next 2, 3, 4 years, again, I want to start building that portfolio of apps, and I'll be documenting the whole thing. Like, here's maybe not every month. I don't know. We'll check in periodically. Like, okay, I have 4 apps now in the portfolio. This app makes this much money per month. This one makes this much money per month. And I'll because I don't care. I'll share things as everybody already knows. I'm not trying to like brag. I genuinely think it's interesting information that can help people like in their journey and help them make decisions. So, so that's why I won't be open sourcing it, because I will be trying to monetize that, because I am trying to turn it into a portfolio that is actually a revenue generator. Philip says, any more books coming? Not in the near future. If more are coming, that'll be in a bit. I had an idea for the Swift News Compendium. Many people may have talked about that, but I think I may pivot that idea. I don't want to talk about that it's too fluid of an idea right now, but more on that. The moral of the story is I have this whole backlog of information from Swift News, like links, articles, and even though the name of the show is Swift News, and some of the stories are like current, a lot of the stuff I talk about is evergreen. Evergreen means that like you could hear it a year from now and it'll still have the same value. It's not like current events. So I want to like take this whole backlog of cool articles, cool topics, cool ideas, and somehow repackage that in a way to provide more value. Because right now, if you want to go back and hear something I talked about on Swift News, you got to like find the episode, on YouTube and search the description for the link. It's a pain in the ass right now. So one thought was to like put all that in a PDF so it's highly searchable and you can just kind of skim each show and look at all the links and have a little blurb about each link so you can see what you want to explore. That was one idea, putting all that packaged into a book or a PDF. Another idea is to kind of just put all that out on the internet for free so it's like highly searchable, because that can drive traffic to my website, to my YouTube channel. There's many different ways I want to repackage that Swift News archive of information, but I'm still trying to figure all that out. Okay, talk about architecture. Prashant says, I would love to purchase a course which has an A to Z features, like from sign up to login to doing API calls, like get, post, update, delete. Looking forward to such a course. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, the first 2 courses I have in mind, the first one is all about the take-home test. Like a lot of times when you're applying to a job, they'll give you a take-home project to demonstrate your skills. And the purpose of this course is twofold. One, if you are interviewing, this is good practice, right? If you want to practice for it, see what a take-home test is like. And then the other aspect of it is, one of the most common questions I get all the time is, okay, I've been learning on my own. When am I ready to start applying for jobs? And so I would then point them to this course, like, hey, do this course. If you understand all the concepts in the course, and I'm not saying you have to have it all memorized, but if all the concepts we talk about in the course you fully understand, then you're probably ready to start applying. So that's kind of the idea for that course. And then the second course is I do want just a beginner course. Like, here's what a variable is. Here's a for loop. And kind of like a build your first app, like a super basic app for the super beginners. Because right now I get that question all the time. Like, hey, I'm just starting out. What website, what book, what course do you recommend? And right now I can't recommend any of my own stuff because I don't have that. Right now I recommend Ray Wenderlich and Paul Hudson, which, don't get me wrong, happy to do, love their stuff, good relationships with both of them, obviously. But it would be really nice to be like, oh, I have a course about that. So those are my first 2 courses. But again, this is a long-term play. Like over the years, I plan on having a full library of courses. Sorry, this conversation is going back and forth. I'm trying to find some questions. Caleb says, yes, he did get the app submitted. Yeah, keep an eye out for on the App Store soon. Ali says, hi, I started learning Swift 3 to 4 months ago. I'm really having a hard time understanding and solidify all the Apple Kit classes, properties, methods, and so on. They're simply too much. It is a lot, but yeah, it's a lot to learn. I'm not going to act like learning to code is easy, but it is very rewarding if you can get through the other side. So I would definitely recommend sticking with it. You say, do you have any advice on how to memorize them in a way you can just recall them when I need? Well, that's the wrong way to think about it. And if you're judging yourself because you don't have all of the Apple APIs and kits memorized, nobody does. Well, maybe some people do. But yeah, memorization is not the way to learn programming. Learning how to read the documentations, basically learning how to learn is one of the best skills to have because things are always changing. New technologies are always coming out. Memorizing is just a waste of time, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be stuff that you have memorized because you've done it 1,000 times, like building a table view. But if you're worried about memorizing and you just see people typing and doing it from memory, don't worry about that. Just learn how to learn how to read the documentation. That is the way to go. Yeah, sorry, I just read Philip's comment right under mine. Yeah, no one memorizes it at all. Just have a solid foundation. Google everything else. He said that much more succinctly than I did. Marlon says, that's almost my exact situation. I started boot camp this month. I have imposter syndrome, but I'm so eager to learn. I left a $100K a year job. Wasn't happy. Wanted to do something I'm fascinated with. Marlon, that kind of sounds like my story as well. Is the whole reason I got into programming was because I wanted a job that I loved to do, right? And people say I work a lot and I put out a lot of content, but that's also because this stuff is kind of my hobby. It doesn't feel like work when you love to do it and it's your hobby. I know that's the cliche line, right? Love what you do and you never work a day in your life, but it's kind of true. So I would love to keep updated on your story, Marlon. Let me know how that goes. And if you have any questions about boot camp and stuff like that, hit me up because I did a boot camp as well. Immerse yourself, ? Here's a quote by Clifford Lee Burton on this topic. I decided to devote my life to it and not get sidetracked to all the other bullshit life has to offer. Fair enough. Yeah. If you really, really want something, put in the time. What's going on, Ali? Chris Connor says, for the companies with which you're interviewed, what percentage would you say focused on algorithm whiteboard interviews versus take-home coding challenges? So it's almost like a scale. The smaller the startup, the more they lean towards take-home tests and less conventional interviews. Maybe they just want you to bring in your project and talk to you about your project that you're currently working on. However, the more you go towards the huge companies like the YouTubes, the Facebooks, Apple of the world, whatever, those lean more towards, the typical whiteboard and algorithm problem. So at least that's what I've seen. So it kind of depends on the size of the company you're going to. Be Free says 2K only for an AdSense revenue. Yeah, I wish AdSense revenue was 2K. AdSense is nothing. AdSense is a little over 500. Yeah. Be Free, you clearly don't have a YouTube channel. AdSense is not how you make your money on YouTube. Looks like we got a super chat. Cool. I forgot to even say that. Christian says, I'm having trouble parsing JSON data. Any advice? So parsing JSON data was one of the hardest things to learn. And looking back now, it seems easy because you've done it a ton. But I remember when I was first starting out and I didn't even know what JSON was and trying to learn how to parse that, it is definitely difficult. So that was my first piece of advice is don't just, if you've been trying to learn it for an hour and you don't get it, don't be hard on yourself. This is going to take time to learn. But how I learned was honestly just kind of doing it 50 times. Following a tutorial or following somebody else's code and then having it work and be okay, kind of going back and dissecting that code and what it was. And really the hardest part was, it wasn't the first layer of JSON. It was when the JSON was nested, when I had to go into an array of dictionaries and do an array of dictionaries, right? You go down this path, and how to go down each level was the tricky part for me to learn. But yeah, there's plenty of videos and tutorials about it. Hacking with Swift has some, again, Ray Wenderlich. But like I said, I learned it took me a while to learn it, and it was just by doing it, 50 times. But again, appreciate the support. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go back to the chat. Philip says, that's more than I thought. You're going to be set. Good for you, Sean. Yeah, I'm not, this business has great potential. We'll just leave it at that. I am not worried about money at all. And again, that's a very fortunate position to be in. I don't want to sound arrogant, but yeah, money is not the issue. And money's not the reason I'm doing this either. Really, honestly, impact. It's fun, and I can have a lot of impact doing this. So that's really what it boils down to. Ali says, I see the Xbox controller in the back with you playing. Yeah, see, this is let me move here. This is my makeshift gaming setup right now. See just the couch, but it ships May 10th, but I just ordered my gaming PC, the streaming setup, all that is going to come into play. So that couch behind me, I can't move. I'm actually getting rid of that couch. Like, it's going up on Craigslist, and that's going to be another computer desk with the gaming PC setup. So yeah, we're going all in. I need more space. The studio apartment is starting to get really full. But yeah, so yeah, that's going to be a gaming setup here in like a week. Mustafa says, hello, I know the basics of Swift and Xcode. I wanted to develop an app for my parents, which will be about real estate. Can you give me hints? What should I focus on this kind of app? Well, that's a lot, Mustafa, to say in a live stream, but you say you know the basics of Swift and Xcode. I don't even know. You have to be more specific on like what the app is. An app about real estate. I mean, that can go 100 different ways. So yeah, I would need to be a little more specific to give any advice there. Gearman said, somebody on the train told me the other day I had a majestic beard. Yeah, I've heard that a few times. I don't know. Some people, they just must love the word majestic with beards. I don't know why. Madia says, hey, Sean, 2 years experience iOS dev here. Do you think you can share or suggest a learning roadmap? From 2 years on, I guess, is that what you're asking? Like if you've already been doing it for 2 years? Well, see, the year's experience is always a tricky measurement because, you know, if person A has been doing it for 2 years and person B has been doing it for 2 years, they could be at completely different skill sets and skill levels, right? Because everybody's different. So, you know, just saying how many years of experience doesn't really tell me how much you know or what you've done. So it's kind of hard to give a learning roadmap, but I'm just going to assume at 2 years experience, you have a good base level. You know the basics. I would start building your own projects. Like I kind of said earlier, start bringing your own ideas to life. And that really helps with the learn. At the 2 year mark in my career is when I really started contracting. And I always say that like really helped my learning a ton. Because again, back to like I said with contracting, you're going from code base to code base to code base. Like during the year and a half I spent contracting, I think I built like 7 apps. You know, so you get a ton of experience doing that. So I would look into contracting and freelancing. Maybe if you're looking at really accelerating your learning. If that's not an option, start building your own projects. Marlon says, there was a saying I heard, if a man shaved his beard for a woman, he deserves neither the beard or the woman. That's funny. Be Free says, have you ever used a Hackintosh? How is your iMac Pro? Are you happy with your purchase? I've never used a Hackintosh. The iMac Pro, so the only time I love my iMac Pro is when I have to go edit and render on my MacBook Pro, right? I take this baby for granted, I think, because really this is a video editing machine. Like you don't need an iMac Pro for development, right? This is for my video editing and stuff like that. So yeah, there's, you know, some videos I've tried to render and spit out, because like, especially like Swift News, because there's constantly like text being rendered and images and stuff, not images, but like PNGs. So Swift News takes a long time to render, and doing it on the MacBook Pro, it takes like 2 hours, whereas the iMac Pro, like 20 minutes. So I don't really appreciate the iMac Pro until I start having to, like if I'm traveling or something and I have to do all my work on the MacBook Pro, then I'm like, oh my God, I love the iMac Pro. But yeah, so that's all I use it for. Hi, Sean. What is the main resource to learn new stuff? There is no one main resource. Kind of like I said earlier in the stream, it's all about complete immersion. I learned from YouTube videos. I learned from podcasts. I learned from tutorials. I learned from books. There's just so many different resources out there. And it really, like, what do you learn the best from? Some people love to read books. Some people like videos. You know, suit your strengths there. It would be good if you continue with live streams here on YouTube because I don't use Twitch and I guess many people don't. Yeah, Timur, I hear that. And this wasn't like an easy decision. Again, not gonna lie, I'm getting a little tired of this format that I'm doing like right now. because, and I understand that like not everybody joins every live stream. Not, I'm getting new people that are discovering me, and people are like falling off and not following me anymore. So I know it's a constant cycle of different people, but I do find myself answering the same questions like over and over and over again. And again, that's not a knock on you people, because I know people are new to the stream, people are new to the channel. So I get why the questions happen, but for me, in something that's fun to do, this is kind of wearing thin with me, this kind of format. So what I think is the gaming and Twitch streaming, and a Twitch account is free. Like, I don't know why it's a huge deal, but yeah, I just think it's going to be more fun for me, and I can continue to put out content, because at the end of the day, once content creation stops being fun for me, that's when like I don't really want to do it. That's when the quality is going to go down. Like I don't want to do things that I don't have fun doing, right? Because I think when you have fun doing things, you're going to do it better, you're going to do it best. That passion is going to like really show through, and that's what's going to make your quality of your content great. So yeah, again, just being completely transparent and honest, I was just getting kind of bored with this format. So yeah, that's why we're mixing it up. All right, got to go into rapid fire. Paul's stream starts in about 10 minutes, and I want to get through some of these questions. So we're kind of now in the lightning round. If you have any last minute questions, get them in there. I'm going to answer these really, really quick. And again, if you want something pushed to the top of the list, throw a super chat. That'll support the channel, supports me, which now I'm going to need now that I'm going full-time YouTube. But yeah, so rapid fire time. Can you talk about Kotlin language and Android app development? I have never done that, so no, I can't. Isaac Richard says, did you build your portfolio website by yourself? Yes, I did. That's why it's not great. And that's why it's just a very basic static website. And it's just built on HTML and CSS with a little bit of JavaScript. Jeffrey Santana says, hi, Sean. After listening to your podcast with the head of Swift at Lambda School, cool, that was Andrew Matsden, I'm thinking of leaving my job, which involves iOS dev, so I can do their boot camp. I'm confused. You said your job involves iOS dev, but are you not an iOS dev? A little confused by that. But yeah, I think what Lambda School is doing is great. Again, I've had a chance to really sit down with Andrew and talk about all that. And I've talked to some of the students at Lambda School too. So I really like what they're doing there. Yeah, I haven't done it myself, so I can't give a personal stamp of approval, but it sounds like they're doing cool stuff. Commander242 talking to Josh. Looks like we've got another super chat from Jason. Go buy a beer to celebrate full-time YouTube decision. Thank you. But $5 isn't enough for a beer in SF, is it? No. But it is enough for this venti coffee. So appreciate that, Jason. You've always been super supportive. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you ever make it out, is that another one? Okay, cool. So now I have enough to buy a beer. Appreciate that, Jason. Again, thanks a lot. And, Jason and I have been talking for a long time via emails. Maybe he retracted it. Not sure what's going on, Jason. Either way, I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll continue our relationship well past these live streams for sure. KKK. All right, I'll just pick a spot here. How can you get freelance clients without a portfolio, or a portfolio made of an apps created for yourself, not for a client? Let me read that in. How do you get freelance clients without a portfolio? That's tough. I would try to. How I got my start was there's a lot of development agencies out there where the agency and the company will find the projects. And usually this agency has like a designer, a back-end web developer. There's like a whole team to build the app, and they need an iOS component. So if you can do that where the agency is finding your clients and that gives you experience, that is a great way to go. Don't get me wrong, you probably won't make as much because, right, like the company's going to charge a certain hourly rate and then you're going to get like a portion of that. But you don't have to deal with the hassle of going out and finding clients. You don't have to deal with the client. You just kind of code. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. That's kind of what I did. And that kind of builds up your portfolio that way. And then you can branch out on your own. So when I was doing that with the agency, I would say, again, about 70% of my agency, my work was with the agency. And then 30% of my contracting was stuff I found on my own. Darish says, hi, Sean. I have a question related to your decision related to moving towards YouTube full time. What inspired you to do that? And thanks for your content. It helps a lot. So I will just show this real quick for those. The latest podcast episode, you can see here, full-time YouTube decision, the deep dive. I talk for, as you can see, 36 minutes, really going into that super in-depth, if you want to hear that. And I kind of shove you off to the podcast just because I'm trying to wrap up in the next 2-3 minutes here, and don't want to kind of repeat that because I've been talking about that a lot. So if you are interested in that, check out that podcast episode. I do a real deep dive into my thoughts there. Maysam says, any chance you get a job when you have been a freelancer for a few years? Yeah, of course. Hi, Sean. Do you have any tips on how to organize your code snippets for things you reuse but don't completely memorize? To be honest with you, I don't use code snippets. And I say that in that tone of voice because I think I really should. I think it's a powerful tool and I just never use them. I don't know. I mean, we all have that, right? Like certain Xcode features or certain, APIs that for some reason you just never use it. So I can't really give advice there. Timur says, would you consider making paid promotion on your channel for some of our apps? If you agree, where can I contact you to talk about price and stuff? So, I mean, it would depend. Any sponsorship or paid promotion, of course, that's how YouTubers make money. So, of course, I'm open to it. But it has to be it has to fit in with the audience, right? And so it has to be a good fit. I don't just do it for money. The money has to be right and it has to be a good fit. So definitely you can contact me. The email is seanallen.dev@gmail.com, or it's on my website, seanallen.co. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see that there. But yeah, it would have to be a good fit, but we can talk. Marlon says, we all know Apple's a fantastic hardware company. Who else wants Apple to make gaming console? Not me. Okay, rapid fire here. Be Free says, you can make $2K on AdSense by drop testing iPhones. Maybe start from your iMac Pro. Yeah. No, I know you're kidding. But yeah, with my type of videos, it's super niche. I mean, my channel is never going to be a 1 million subscriber channel. And I know that just because I'm really focusing down on iOS development, not just a lot of the software development channels you see are general software development, whereas I'm super focused on iOS, and not only iOS, but Swift. So, but that's fine. That's kind of the decision I made. I made the decision to go real niche. So I don't really think I'll ever have a viral video because my stuff is always Swift developer centric. Joshua says, how much is a studio apartment there? I pay $3,000 a month. Don't get me wrong. I have a nice view, a balcony. I'm looking at the bay and the Bay Bridge right now. So can't complain. And that's pretty much what I pay for. You can get cheaper than that, but it's still crazy expensive. Favors the Bowl says, hey, Sean, did you speak yet about the feedback you got from the YouTube on-site? No, I haven't gotten the actual feedback yet. I know it didn't go well. I know it didn't pass, but I haven't gotten the actual feedback yet. The recruiter's been trying to set up a call. We haven't been able to get. Chris says, any chance of a Sean Allen Roadshow? Come to Austin. We'll get a BBQ and beer together. So I am going to start looking at conferences to speak around the country and around the world. I want to do that once or twice a year. So there's a chance I could be in your city. Or Chris, if you ever make it out to, I think I remember you saying you gave up your WWDC ticket, if I'm not mistaken. But if you ever make it out to San Francisco, definitely hit me up for sure. Okay, scrolling down. Isaac Richardson says, Sean, do you use GitHub? I noticed that you don't share project files for tutorials with GitHub. Yeah, of course I use GitHub. It's all for my private projects and work stuff. I share my project files just on Dropbox. I don't know. It's a hassle to create a repo for every single one because there's so many of them. So I literally just put it in my Dropbox folder and that's it. So you can definitely get my source code. It's just on Dropbox, not GitHub. Gaming streamings will be lit. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. I think it's going to be fun. And like I said before, you're going to see a different side of me. Because again, we'll just be hanging out, having fun. This feels very businessy to me, right? We're here for a purpose. Whereas just playing video games, we're just going to be hanging out, shooting the shit, we're, friends kind of thing. So yeah, you'll see a more cracking jokes, lighthearted side of me, that's for sure. And that's kind of a preemptive, Don't get sad if I make fun of you. That's just how I am. I'm pretty sarcastic. Like to crack a lot of jokes. So yeah, it won't be a sensitive stream, that's for sure. But it also won't be hardcore crazy mean. I don't want to give that impression. Gearman says, I wrote an app yesterday with a buddy. I have an issue triggering the app. I would like my app to take data from clipboard and have a way to execute from any app. I haven't dealt with that there. Jay says, what's your salary? Google average Silicon Valley developer salary, and you're probably going to be close. I don't make anything great. I don't make anything below market. It's pretty much what it is. But again, that's because I'm at a small startup. Right? I'm at a 5-person startup, not a big corporation. Had I taken that job at a big corporation, like a PayPal, yeah, pay would have been pretty nice. But we decided to go a different route. Because again, I don't know. Money's not my number one motivator. It's just not. All right. Last couple questions before we wrap up. Let me find like one or two good ones, or ones that I think will be fun to answer. Because yeah, Paul's stream is getting ready to start up. Patrick says he'll hit me up later. He has questions. Giuliano says, hey Sean, congratulations for the decision to go full-time YouTube. A lot of developers try to create content, but not everyone has the talent as a great communicator. Thank you. Yeah, I do think that is one of my skills. I think I can, once I understand something, I think I can break it down simply to help others understand it. I do think that's always a skill I've always had, not just with like coding, just with anything. So yeah, hopefully that skill differentiates me a bit, and we can make this thing really successful. All right, one last question, because I want everybody to go to Paul's live stream. He's going to do some live coding here in a second. Last one from, hold on. I'm reading these last three to pick one. All right, last one. Do you offer investing time on learning Android as an iOS developer or learning hybrid frameworks? I do not. I've chose to specifically specialize in Swift, because there's two different thoughts, right? You can generalize and learn a bunch of different languages, and that's fine. That's a great path. You're going to be a well-rounded developer. Or you can specialize in one, and that's a fine path too. You know, I am not starving for opportunities in Swift development, right? Especially with this YouTube channel that is also a good marketing platform for me. I hope this doesn't come off as arrogant, but I'm pretty confident I'll have Swift opportunities. I'll have more than I can handle. So for that reason, I'm just going to continue specializing down Swift. And that may not always be iOS app development, because everybody knows technology dies. Pretty soon we'll move on from the iPhone, but I'm pretty confident Apple will be there in the future. And, whether that's AR platform or voice, whatever turns into the dominant thing, Apple will be there with Swift. So pretty confident in that. But all right, that's going to wrap it up for this last May live stream. Thanks everybody for hanging out with me. And again, if you like the live streams, you want to just pop in and say hi, twitch.tv/Sean Allen. And that's where I'm going to be probably starting in a few weeks. And yeah, that's just going to be hanging out, having fun, playing some video games, drinking some beers, just having a good time. Again, it'll be a more laid back, cracking jokes, having fun type atmosphere. So I'm looking forward to that. But thanks everybody for hanging out, and talk to you later.